Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and have we got a news show for you today, the latest Manchester United transfer news, and there is a lot to talk about. We'll be talking about the Gyokeres situation. Has he chosen Manchester United? And if he hasn't, where are we with him and the striker situation? Also, Douglas Luiz talks, Italian report saying that we are in for him. A change in the Garnacho transfer fee that Man United want. We'll be talking about that. Could it be Mbeumo Here We Go day? I hope so. We'll talk about where we are with that and his dream move to Manchester United. We've also got updates on Jadon Sancho and a little bit about Ruben Amorim if we get the chance, because a few people saying stuff about Amorim that he's immune to criticism. I don't think he's immune to criticism. I just think that the criticism belongs somewhere else before it hits him. So lots to get into on the show as usual. Let me just get rid of you. We're not even going to give the names anymore. We just remove them. Toxic people that we don't want in this chat. Well done to the mods. Get rid of them. Thank you very much, everyone who's tuning in this morning. Get into the show. So let's start off with Gyokeres. Shock transfer decision for him, apparently. Very, very low-level source last night talking about him choosing Manchester United. So what is the news? Instead of... Look, a more mature way on a news show is to actually analyse the news and find out what's going on with Gyokeres. So the situation as things stand at the moment is that Gyokeres could sign for Manchester United. Fabrizio Romano said it recently. I think he said it again yesterday. Gyokeres never rejected Manchester United. He never said no to Manchester United. What he said is his priority is Arsenal, and his Arsenal priority remains the same. So as of today, as of 2 minutes past 10 on Thursday, the 26th of June, Gyokeres' preference is to sign for Arsenal. His priority is to sign for Arsenal. He has not told Manchester United that they are his priority now. He has not changed his mind. The only people who change his mind are Arsenal Football Club. And if Arsenal decide to sign Sesko, which they do want to do, then they've got to buy Gyokeres as well, or Gyokeres is going to have to change his mind. But as of this morning, hasn't changed his mind, as per Fabrizio Romano, as per David Ornstein, as per everybody who knows anything in this industry. Manchester United, Arsenal, the player himself, Sporting, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, Sporting are in the process of buying a striker from Almeria. I can't remember what his name is. For some reason, I want to say Suarez. It might be Louis or someone like that. But he wants to sign for Arsenal. Now, this is a big problem for some people because logically, he could still sign for Manchester United. There is still a very good chance that Gyokeres will sign for Manchester United. And his decision to join Manchester United would be a shock when obviously he would prefer to sign for Arsenal. But that can still happen. The reality is Sesko is moving closer to an Arsenal decision. Whether he's following Arsenal on Instagram or not, he is moving closer to an Arsenal move. And if he moves to Arsenal, Gyokeres, I think, will have to look at that and change his priority. Because would your priority be Arsenal if they bought Sesko before you and then they said, we want you as the backup? No. You want to be the main guy at 27. You don't want to be second to a 22-year-old. So until Sesko signs for Arsenal, if Sesko signs for Arsenal, then this story will change. But as of this morning, there's really not anything emotionally to change. It's news. It's definitely news, and it's definitely now. It's Man United news now. But it's not the news that maybe some people would hope we had last night. Some of us were intelligent enough to know it's nonsense. But he hasn't changed his mind. He wants to go to Arsenal until Arsenal say they're not signing him. When Arsenal say they're not signing him, that's when it gets interesting, because he's not going to want to go to Arsenal as a backup striker. He's going to want to go somewhere as a starting striker. And I think people have a lot of concerns about this. But when you listen to what Fabrizio said on his YouTube channel, Arsenal is Gyokeres' priority. And he's prioritising them because they're in the Champions League. He has never rejected Manchester United. He's just prioritised Arsenal. What he also said a few weeks ago was, if Man United had beaten Spurs in the Europa League final, he's 99% sure, or whatever he said, that Gyokeres would be a Man United player. So realistically, we've only got ourselves to blame. It's not really because he loves Arsenal more than Man United. It's because Arsenal are in the Champions League and he's 27. That's all it is about. He probably would be a Man United player if we'd won that final. So I would say to any of you that are getting, we don't want him if he doesn't want to come. The reason he doesn't want to come is because of us. We bloody caused it. And look, we wanted Liam Delap. And he did exactly the same. He chose Chelsea because they're in the Champions League and we're not. So if Gyokeres ends up coming to United, I will be there cheering at the front, running round the garden with my top off, saying we've just signed a top European striker, which we probably don't deserve to do considering the season we've had. So I'm all over this deal as and when we get some movement on it. But as of this morning, his priority is still Arsenal. I think you can guess that he might come to Man United because if Arsenal sign Sesko, it gives us a better chance. But even then, I would put a word of warning. Just because he doesn't go to Arsenal doesn't mean another Champions League club doesn't come in like a Chelsea and go, do you want to come here? So we still got to be very, very careful. What about Osimhen, Mark, says Jen? Osimhen, I'm glad you mentioned it. Osimhen has to be, I mean, look, let's just quickly talk about other strikers. Osimhen has to be the most mysterious striker in the transfer market at the moment. He's either just going to go to Saudi and it's going to be a really boring story, or something amazing is going to happen, like he's going to stay in Turkey, which I think the Premier League has missed out on. But I think with Osimhen at the moment, the last thing I was told, and it was last week, is that he's on holiday, chilling, knowing there's a big queue of clubs, and he's thinking it through. So that's why it's been quiet on Osimhen, because he doesn't really need to start moving until, next week. So I think that with Osimhen, I would like to see him at Manchester United, but very, very quiet. I saw Laurie Whitwell last night, actually. It was somebody put a tweet out that Laurie Whitwell said that Man United are interested in Osimhen. We're not. There's nothing concrete with Osimhen. I mean, he would be on the list, but it's not like he's a high priority because the wages he wants and what he wants is harder than Gyokeres to do because he wants more money and he's playing everybody off against each other. United aren't involved in that. United basically want what you've got with Cunha and Mbeumo. They want players that are basically saying that this is the club I want. Obviously, Gyokeres isn't saying that at the moment, but he might say that. Osimhen has to tell Man United that that's the club he wants. Otherwise, they won't waste any time on him because at the moment, Osimhen's just playing everybody off for the biggest wage and signing on fee he can get. And until that changes, I can't see us being in for Osimhen, really. I don't think we will be in for Osimhen. I'd love him at Man United, but I genuinely don't think we will be. So, yeah, that's where we are with the striker. Douglas Luiz is quite interesting. Bit of breaking news coming out, actually, literally just before I went live, about Jadon Sancho. He's going to Fenerbahce, he's going to Juventus, he's going to Napoli, he's going to Dortmund. So the latest stuff that's coming out, and it's sort of like, there's a combination of two stories here for Jadon Sancho. There's Turkish reports saying that he's very, very close to signing for Fenerbahce. But then there's a couple of Italian reports coming out this morning that Juventus are close to signing Sancho. The negotiations are underway, and also with Manchester United. And there's talk of like a fee of £21 million and all this, that and the other. Look, I don't want to talk about Sancho. I want to talk about Douglas Luiz. I couldn't give a toss about Jadon Sancho. He bores me to tears. The most interesting thing about Jadon Sancho's career highlights are going to be transfer stories. Like, they're not on the pitch. Oh, remember when it took 2 years to buy him from Dortmund? Oh, remember when he got sent back from Chelsea and we all thought it was an obligation to buy? Remember when he signed for Juventus and everyone thought he'd just run his contract down? It's just no football highlights. It's just all transfer highlights. He'd be writing a book when he's older on all the money he's made from being, from not really playing football. So I think with regards to Sancho, don't care. But what I do care about, very interesting story, again, coming out of Italy, that Man United will hold talks with Juventus about Douglas Luiz and some sort of deal with Sancho, Luiz, Juventus and Manchester United. Now, he's 27 and he moved from Villa to Juventus a year ago for 50 million euros. They're now talking about 25 million euros. I don't know what's gone wrong here. I don't even understand what's going on here. Like, a year ago, he goes for 43 million, and now they're looking for 20. I don't understand what's going. I don't understand why Jadon Sancho we would get 21 million, and I don't understand why they only want 21 million. So I'm confused by this. They paid 42 million for him a year ago. They now want 21 million for him, and apparently we're going to get 21 million for Sancho, who's got 1 year left on his contract and could literally run it down. It's really confusing, and I just wonder whether the change of manager could be a thing, Thomas, as well. I just wonder whether, and you very rarely get these, but I do wonder if there's some sort of swap deal, inflation of, I don't know. What we do know is that Jadon Sancho would rather go and play in Italy than Turkey. Mourinho is trying really hard to get him to Fenerbahce, but Sancho would rather be in Italy, more competitive league, etc. So he is prioritising Italy and has been for a while. He wants Premier League, but he can't get a Premier League club. He was interested in Dortmund, but they don't want him back. So third choice is the Italian league. Jose's pushing hard, but I don't think that's going to work. So look, fundamentally, we come back to, if there's any truth in this story at all, would you take Douglas Luiz? I definitely would. I mean, it's hard to rank Douglas Luiz in our midfield roster at the moment, because I think if I said he's better than Casemiro, some people would, nah. He's better than Agate, nah. He's better than Mainu, nah. He's better than Bruno, nah. But I think it's not just about ability. It's about, he would probably be the most suitable player for a midfield pivot at Man United. He's the player that's got both attributes. He's got the, and I'm looking at the Villa player. At Villa, he was one of their best players. He has got the energy and the intensity and the tenacity, but he's also got the ball playing skills. I mean, he bloody takes free kicks and corners at Villa, or he used to. So I think that, look, I would take Douglas Luiz. What worries me, and I saw somebody writing about it this morning, but let's just say Ben Jacobs, because he said it on the channel, but it wasn't Ben Jacobs this morning. Ndidi, because he's got an 11 million release clause. I'm telling you now, if we get Ndidi out of Leicester, I'll lose it. I'd rather promote Kone. I don't see the point in Ndidi in 2025. 3 years ago, I think we all would have gone for him. But Ndidi now for £11 million. I mean, that's the sort of deal you do if you're Ipswich. That's the sort of deal you do if you're Sunderland. You don't do that deal if you're Man United. Ndidi will be a flop and end up like Casemiro, but nowhere near as good as Casemiro, where we're stuck with him. So I wouldn't go anywhere near Ndidi. Some people are saying that Ndidi's still only 28, but I don't look at the passport. I look at the quality. I mean, Ndidi will be 29 in December. So, age or not, he's been shit for 2 years. He was absolutely shit last season. Douglas Luiz is only just 27. He was basically 27 on the 9th of May. So 27 is no age at all. And he's only just 27. So all of next season he'll be 27. All of the season after that he'll be 28. And all of the season after that he'll be 29. You'll get 3 full seasons out of him before he's 30. So I don't see an age issue at all. I look at the player he was at Aston Villa, and I think that he was a very good player. Obviously, things haven't gone well at Juventus, which is surprising because you normally go from the Premier League to the Italian League and do really, really well. But look, I would like Douglas Luiz, and if there's any deal we can do with Jadon Sancho, I would be all over it, especially when it's not going to cost us a lot of money. So I would like to see United doing that. Of course, it's Italian reports. You've got to be a little bit reserved about that. But we need a midfielder, and if we can get that midfielder in as part of a Jadon Sancho deal, maybe you don't need to move a Casemiro on. Maybe you've covered it off with the Sancho deal. I don't know. His injury record this season is a concern, says random guy. Whose injury record? Let me have a quick look at this. Douglas Luiz, what's your injury record like? We'd like to know for the United Stand morning show. Oh, Douglas Luiz. He's had a few injuries. Oh, God, he's had loads of injuries. Bloody hell. So before he went to Juventus, he'd had basically nothing. Nothing, really. At Juventus, he's had 5 injuries. He's had muscle fatigue from October to December. Then he's had muscular problems in December. Then he had muscle fatigue again in February. Then he had a hamstring muscle injury, February to April. So he has had a good point. Well spotted. Well spotted. Very well spotted. That is a lot of injuries to have. Yeah, you might have just. I mean, Ladios says he's perfect for us. Then, is it too much pasta? Says Mick. The Italian diet's very good. I've spent a lot of time there in my life. Lots of olive oil, lots of fish, lots of salads, and what do they call it? Olives, as I said. Is it a red flag though? Says Many Brew. It's one season. I'd want to know what the muscle fatigue is. But I'm not saying no to somebody because they've had one bad season with injuries. I mean, look, Mainu's not had a great season last year, has he, with injuries? So I think you've got to look at it in context. But random guy said his injury record is a concern. Robert McCormack says, our fans would riot wrongly if we got Norgard. A great point by Robert. Norgard, Brentford, 31, going to Arsenal. If we bought him, I think people would go mad. I don't really look at the passport. I look at the ability. That's how ambition and clubs operate. They get rid of a player they don't want, says Andy Mack. João Palhinha, says Christian. Apparently that's a load of nonsense that we're in for him. Apparently he wants to stay at Bayern. Sancho's contract has an option as a +1, says Honest. Yeah, but we're never going to activate that +1 because then he gets 300 grand a week for another year. Luis would bring Lehmann as well. I think they broke up. I was speaking to her at Baller League and she was basically trying it on, and I was like, I'm happily married. I'm not interested in you're meant to be with Douglas Luiz, and she said, not anymore. That last few seconds was totally made up, by the way. I'm sure I read somewhere that they've broken up though. How much do you think Amorim can accomplish after getting his pre-season? Can these players improve, or do you still think there has to be a mass exodus, says Rajaf? Rajaf, if you think we're going to polish a pile of shit, then that's my answer. Absolutely not. Hey up, Mark, what are you hoping to see from pre-season? Any surprises on your radar? Says Michael Doherty. Well, we're going to see Mbeumo and we're going to see Cunha, but I don't think we're going to see a hell of a lot else. Loan, Palhinha, or buy Stack or Guerra. But this Stack and Guerra, what I would say about these two players is that it's completely and utterly irrelevant to me because it's fan-led. I'm not interested in Pratman, Statman, or anyone like that, or Stat Girl. I don't care about Elliot Hackney. I don't care about Guerra. I don't care about Stack. They're not players that we've been linked to. So I could start talking about midfielders that I think we should go for, but it's we're not that club. We can't go, oh, I'd go and get this player because I've been watching the Brazilian league, or oh, I'd go and get this player from the German mid-table. Like, what's the point? It's the end of June. We can only follow what the club are looking at. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you know what? I had a hipster moment this morning. I woke up with a right stonk on. I had a right hipster moment because I was thinking about this player that plays in the Portuguese league, and I reckon he's going to be the next Rodri. So I think we should buy him and gradually feed him into the midfield. So what? I'm not the CEO. I'm not the director of football. I don't dismiss people going, I think this player would be a good player. But in a transfer window, I think it's more about, we were talking about Cunha during last season, and thankfully it ended up happening. But talking about players we think would be good signings now, it's an irritant to me because I'm like, it's irrelevant. Like, we follow what the club do, and until they start getting linked to Hackney, which we never have, never had any credible sources that were looking at Hackney, but many of you talk about him because he's a good player. We just have to follow what we're looking at. And in the midfield at the moment, there's not many names coming forward. Edison was a strong name before we lost to Spurs. Palhinha felt like there might be something in it, but apparently there's not. Douglas Luiz feels like there might be something in it. We'll have to find out. But, I'd love Belieber. I'm like Caleb. If you want to midfield, if we're talking fantasy, I'm not talking about Stack at Hoffenheim or Gera or whoever else. I'm talking about Belieber at Brighton. But I'm not going to talk about Belieber because it's not fair, because it's not going to happen. Ricky says, it's like you want to go out with someone who is married. He has to find the next best option. Hopefully he wants a Premier League move, says Ricky about Gyokeres. Thank you very much for that. When will the Lindelof and Eriksen farewell video drop, Mark, says Sir Jimmy Jizz. I saw a comment from Lindelof last night that he's always going to be a fan and he's so grateful for being a Man United player. And I felt like going, I bet you bloody are. 8 years when you should have been here for 2. Cunha and Douglas Luiz look identical, says Shim. I wouldn't be going for Ndidi, but we said the same about Onana at Everton, and he has gone on to be really good for Villa, says Patrick. This is where good scouting and not just price tag is essential. But I think Onana at Everton hasn't had a great season at Villa, really. He's missed a lot of football there. I think he will be a good signing for them, but it's not been an immaculate first season. And also, he's a lot younger than an Ndidi as well. So there's a difference between going for Ndidi, who's going to be 29 in January, and Onana, who went from Everton to Villa in his early 20s. Would you consider Ivan Toney? No, I wouldn't, Christopher. Too expensive. I think there's a lot better options than him. Ndidi. Video's already out about Lindelof, apparently. Next player I want to talk about very, very briefly is Mbeumo before I talk to you about Garnacho. But interesting story coming out about Garnacho. Ali says, I'd let Alicia dominate me. Our team is very small. Okay, Ali's moving down some other level there. I'd like Tielemans at Manchester United, Lloyd. Yes, brilliant player. Right, I want to say this. Mbeumo, will it be today? Breaking news. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. Fabrizio, Fabrizio, I love Fabrizio, but he's in that mode, which is annoying, with a Man United transfer where it's like, it's close. This is what I'm hearing is it's close. He loves Manchester United. This is a dream move for Mbeumo, but it is close. What I'm hearing, friends, is close, and this is only fine details now, and then this deal is done, and here we go. But, my friends, I will be back in half an hour to tell you something about this deal. But it's close. So, you know, you've got to follow the GOAT, and he will announce the here we go. He has the copyright on the here we go, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's deal day today, because then it's deal day tomorrow. It could have been deal day yesterday. Funnily enough, both Fabrizio and David Ornstein said yesterday that there was going to be a here we go on Gyokeres to Liverpool, and we didn't get it. So, look, on the one hand, I'm a right moany little arsehole about the transfer window, and I'll sit here and tell you there's no chance we've got a striker in for the US tour, which is a joke, really, for Amorim. But I will sit here and tell you Mbeumo will be there for pre-season. So it's not, you know, when I'm being a moaner about United and their slow activity on sales and purchases in certain areas of the pitch, because it's going to damage our pre-season, I'm not going to be negative about Mbeumo. We will sign him. We will sign him before pre-season. But it's still a week and a half until that. Mbeumo's desperate. He loves Manchester United. No, Mbeumo's desperate to get the medical done. He's desperate to start pre-season at Man United. He's excited. It's his dream move. I just don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, it could be in 10 minutes. It could be in 10 days. But it will happen. I think the interesting thing, just very quickly before we talk about Garnacho, though, I just want to drop this in as a bit of a topic that you might go off and discuss elsewhere or get in the comments or in the live chat now. How long does the pull of Manchester United last? Because I was doing a video on Terry's channel yesterday, and effectively I said that this Cunha and Mbeumo summer has got probably 3-4 years left in it. And what I mean by that is Cunha wants to join Man United because he remembers the likes of Rooney and Van Persie, etc., playing for Man United, because Cunha's like 25. So 15 years ago, we were still winning Premier League titles. So when he was 10 in Brazil, Man United was still a team to admire. Same with Cunha, he's 25. So when he was 10, Man United was still a big club. So their dream move is based on being a kid and Man United being good. We're running out of time, you know, like a car with petrol that keeps driving from London to Manchester. We've only got so many more trips before we break down. And what I mean by that is, in 5 years' time, a 25-year-old will have been born in 2005. When they were 10 years of age, 2015, we were shit. So we can sit there and say, and we've really annoyed Newcastle fans with Mbeumo. He was perfect for them. They play a 4-3-3. He would have gone right wing and been a revelation. I didn't even know we were going for Mbeumo in March, and I was doing a video with Robbie, and I said, he was on about Mbeumo's had a great season, where's he going to go? And I said, Newcastle. And he went, yeah. And I went, I know, that's why I said it. Perfect, absolutely perfect for their team. Murphy's done a good job for them, but Mbeumo's a step up. He'd be brilliant in a Newcastle team, and I think Newcastle fans knew that. But he's chose Man United because we're Manchester United, and it's his dream move. In 5 years' time, the next Mbeumo probably chooses Newcastle if we are where we are and they are where they are. Because then kids aren't growing up now with Rooney and Van Persie and Rio Ferdinand and Ryan Giggs and all them lot. They're growing up with Lindelof. You know? And there will always be, Man United will always be a big club, but the pull will change slightly when you've grown up with a shit Man United side. Mark, have you considered stand-up comedy, says Ola. First 10 minutes of the Dublin show, I had to go. We should sign Mateta as our striker, says Christian. Thank you very much for that. Okay, let me talk to you about Garnacho. So, interesting article coming out when we... Mark, you take the piss out of Lindelof, but in 5 years' time, there might be a really good 25-year-old from Sweden who loves Lindelof. There you go. The next Bergvall. So, in the Mirror this morning, Garnacho. Manchester United would like to get 60 to 70 million pounds for Garnacho, but realistically, they're already lowering their demands to about 40. Now, look, take that with a pinch of salt. Maybe you don't trust the Mirror, whatever. But I think that is going to be very interesting. We saw a story at the start of the week about Garnacho and 70 million pounds. It's funny because what I don't understand about this fan base, and I mean, I'm going to do a little bit of a poll on this actually. What do you value Garnacho at? I'm going to give you 4 options. Loving the show this morning. It's great just to have lots of different stories to talk about. What do you value Garnacho at? So if I go option 1, let's say 35 mil. I'm going to do it in 5s. 45 mil. 55 mil. Or 65 mil. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think those 5 are fair. Right, okay, get voting on that. So, what I don't understand about Garnacho is when we were talking about, remember that article, and I think it was David Ornstein, it was somebody credible at the start of January, dropped this story about Ineos being open to offers for Mainu and Garnacho. It was the first time since Ineos had come into the club that they let it be known that they would sell young players like Chelsea. And some of us got really irritated by that on principle. I remember Paul Scholes saying something as well. Man United don't sell players that are talented and haven't completed their journey. We've always been a club that nurtures talent to its conclusion before we move it on or we use it. So if Man United become a seller of talent, we're sort of turning our back on what we're meant to be all about. And I completely agree with that. But some people in January were like, well, I don't like Garnacho, let's cash in. And I was like, look, if Amorim decides he doesn't want Garnacho, we can't let him go for anything less than 60 because I think he's a good player. He's 20 years of age. In 2 years' time, he'll still be 22. So he's got 2 years of development and he'll still only be 22. So I was saying, anything below 60 is stupid, because if he goes off somewhere and does really well, at 22, he'll be worth 70. So we've mugged ourselves off. Some people say, no, I'd take 50. We're now 6 months later. He ain't worth 60. He ain't worth 60 because we've completely and utterly, collectively devalued him. He's devalued himself, wearing Villa shirts and doing interviews, and Man United have devalued him by making it obvious he's for sale. So I would say his value at the moment is around 45 with add-ons. But what we'll actually get for him in this market, which is a challenging market, I would say 40 is about what we're going to get. I think I agree with Terence. I think Ruben Amorim has devalued him. I want to talk about Amorim in a moment, but I think Amorim has devalued him. And I don't know whether you can be critical of that, because you want honesty. I love the honesty for Amorim. I loved what he said about Rashford. I love what he said about Garnacho when he dropped them. You want that honesty, but it does devalue the players sometimes. But if Amorim had said nothing and Garnacho had wore the Villa shirt, I don't blame Amorim, because, yeah, him putting Garnacho up for sale and dropping him in the final shows the whole world that he's for sale, and that devalues him. But if Amorim had picked him in the final and he hadn't said he was for sale, he'd said nothing, but Garnacho had worn the Villa shirt and done the interview, he'd still be devalued because Garnacho's behaved badly. So Amorim telling the truth doesn't make any difference because of how Garnacho's behaved as well. But I think that we're going to struggle to get anything more than 40 in this market, because other clubs want other players. When you look at this summer transfer window, Garnacho's not even in the top 10 players that people want. Like, you look at Wirtz, you look at Frimpong, you look at Gyokeres, you look at Cherki, you look at Gyokeres, you look at Sesko, Nico Williams. Like, Garnacho's not even in the top 10 players that people want this summer transfer window. And if he is, he's right near 10. So there's not a great market. What I'm trying to say is, if he was in the top 5 players that people want, the top 5 most valuable players, whatever, most wanted players, we'd be in a strong position. But the market's not really there. Napoli like him, but they can't afford him really. Villa like him, but they can't afford him really. Chelsea like him, but they can't afford him really. So the market's crap for him as well. There's nobody there with £45 million. So I think 40 is about what we're going to get. And we're going to have to build in sell-on percentages and add-ons. The market's not good. I'm not going to talk to you here about whether he should have wore the Villa shirt. We've spoken about that. I'm not going to talk to you here about whether Man United can get £70 million for him. That's just fantasy. I'm going to talk to you about the market, because obviously I do a daily video on That's Football, which you can watch, talking about the transfers away from Manchester United. And Garnacho's just not featured. He's not featured in Arsenal transfer news or Chelsea transfer news or Liverpool transfer news. He's just not being, or Newcastle. Why would Newcastle not want him? People just aren't looking at him. So that devalues him as well. His behaviour, the club's behaviour, and the market are driving him down. I think there's a very good player there. Look, if I was the CEO of Aston Villa, I would try and buy him. I think the appeal of Garnacho for a club like Aston Villa would be massive for shirt sales, etc., and brandification and awareness, which is a modern factor for any football club, whether you're Wrexham or Aston Villa. £40 million for a 20-year-old, you're going to get that money back. You'll sell him at 25 and get £40 million for him, but you might sell him at 25 and get 80 for him. So I would do the deal. The one thing I would do is I'd get Emery in a room with him and I'd say, I want you to spend an hour with him and I want you to come out and tell me the truth. Because if you come out of that room and say, he's a lost cause, he's a fucking idiot, we won't do it. But if you come out of that room and say, I can turn him into a player and make him grow up, let's do it. So I think 40 million I think 45 million is a good deal for Garnacho. As a player, I've always been an admirer. But I don't think the market's there. I really do. Anonymous says, I think you overestimate Garnacho's marketing potential. I don't think I do, mate. I really don't. I don't know whether you saw the Asia tour, but he was the most popular player there with Bruno by a very long way, whether you like that or not. Also, you look at him on Instagram, 12 million followers, which is, you know, Ahmad's got 2.3. On ability, it should be Ahmad, but he's got way more. So he's massively popular. Bruno's got 9.5 million. He's got 12. So there is something about Garnacho that is massively appealing to whatever generation it is. And that's marketable. Look, I guarantee you there's been a mini spike in Villa shirt sales since he posted that picture. Because that's the way the world works. That's the way it works. What has Garnacho done to merit 35 million to 60? Keel, you're meant to be a bloody United fan. Don't come in here and say what's he done to merit 35 to 60 million pounds. We want him to 100 million. You know, even if you're lying, like no, he's easily worth 45 million. I think under Ten Hag, he was worth 60. And not just because of the goal against Everton. I think up until Ten Hag left, his trajectory was very good. He wasn't the finished article, but there was glimpses of what he could be. And he'd had a very good couple of years introduction into the team. What's happened in the last 6 months is he's fell off a bloody cliff. And that's basically what's happened. How you would value him in last place, 13% of you would value him at 65 million. In second to last place, 18% of you would value him at 35 million. So the two extremities there. In second place, 29% of you would value him at 55 million. But in first place, 39% of you would value him at 45 million. So the majority is basically 50 million or lower, and the majority price is 45 million. So I think we're going to get about 40 million for him. Anything more than that would be a bonus, but it's still a failure, isn't it? It's an overarching failure because it wasn't that long ago we were talking about 55 to 70 million. We're now talking about 35 to 45. So there we go. Ahmad says, Dorgu, Amas, Diego Leon, I guess, and Ahmad Mazraoui plays better at centre-back. Delo, Mantato. Hopefully, I think we need to sign a wing-back. Shaw's just a no. Luke Shaw's a very lucky player because he basically hasn't played football for 2 years. He gets back for the final, gets injured again, earns 200 grand a week, and never gets mentioned because he's got an English passport. He is one of the biggest waste of spaces in that team, and he is an expensive waste of space. People don't even talk about him next season now. Like, he's still got 2-3 years left on his contract on 200 grand a week. We don't even include him in matchday squads when we're thinking about next season. We can't sell him, so I don't know. I just don't... Look, I think Luke Shaw, when he's fit, is a great player, but I think we should be demanding that. We can't sell him. He ain't going to go anywhere. You know, look at what people have said about Garnacho and Rashford and Sancho this week. Get rid of them, get rid of their wages. No one says anything about Luke Shaw. Say what you like about Rashford and Sancho and Garnacho, but they've all played a lot more games in the last 2 years for Man United than he has. Even probably Sancho, actually. So it's all get rid of them, get rid of them. He just flies under the radar all the time. And look, I feel sorry for him in relation to injuries, but we're not a bloody charity. Why is it that club are happy to throw Rashford and Garnacho under the bus publicly, but you've got a player there who is basically sat on his arse earning 190 grand a week for the last 2 years doing nothing? And it's like, keep it quiet, keep it quiet. And what it is Luke Shaw's well liked at Carrington, but it's hypocrisy at the highest level. You've got Rashford, who they just want to get rid of because whatever reason, and Garnacho. But Luke Shaw's just an absolute waste of time for Manchester United. That's like, it's not far off being £1 million a month. It's definitely £10 million a year. And he's not, but going back to what Ahmad said, he's going to be nothing next year, is he? No one's putting Luke Shaw in their best 11. No one's putting him on the bench. Just an absolute waste of time. And the problem with Luke Shaw is, sadly, he's injured all the time. He's actually injured now, again. I know he played the final, but he's injured. So I don't even know if he's back for pre-season, but he's injured again. So how long is he going to be fit for? Problematic. Problematic. I want to talk about, what was it? I said I was going to talk about Amorim, didn't I? I can't remember the context of it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do remember now. 1 minute. Let me just check this. Would West Ham buy Luke? No. Look, personally, just in case anybody's just tuning in right now, who is an agent for another football club. Personally, if I was West Ham or Crystal Palace or Everton, I think Luke Shaw is the secret of the transfer window. You offer Man United 5 million, and then you give him 190k a week, which he's already on. You've just got the bargain of the summer. You know, Shawberto Carlos, recognised as one of the best left backs in the world only a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. I think he could be the signing of the summer. You give Man United 5 million, you give him the 190k, you give him a 5-year deal, and you're laughing. And everyone's laughing at you, but they don't know what they're laughing about. You're the real winners. You're having the real laugh. I think it would be a great deal for some Premier League club out there. And that's me talking honestly. So there we go. Now they've all ran off to do the deal, hopefully. No, there is not a football club with a brain that's going to go anywhere near him. Absolute. There is somebody at Man United who has signed off contracts over the last few years, and it's not even football low IQ. It's just basic stupidity. I mean, we gave Phil Jones a long-term contract when he'd been injured for the previous 5 years. We gave Luke Shaw a long-term contract when he'd been injured for the last few years. We gave Rashford that long-term contract on 300 grand a week. I mean, we gave Anthony 200 grand a week. Like, there's just, we've given Mason Mount a long-term contract on 250 grand a week when he was clearly injured when we bought him. There's just somebody at United who, I mean, look, obviously this is a joke, but one of you said it a few months ago. Whoever hands out the contracts at Manchester United need investigating for money laundering. It's like, I was watching that series the other day. It's very good on BBC iPlayer, called The Gold, and it's about the robbery of Brinksmat, of all this. They basically went into this building to steal £1 million of foreign currency, and whilst they were in there, there was £25 million worth of gold. So they steal the gold, but then they're like, it's the biggest robbery in world history. It happened in the early 1980s. So they've got this gold in a lockup in East End London, but then they're like, we can't just go and sell it because everybody's looking for it, and it's got like serial numbers on it. So they spent the next few months gradually melting it down and chucking in cheap gold to sell it, this, that, and the other. And then when they were getting the cash, they had to put it into legitimate businesses without it looking stupid. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think Man United are going, let's give stupid contracts out to people so we can, you know, filter criminal money out there. Absolutely not. But some of the contracts we've handed out are just incredible. They're absolutely incredible. And Luke Shaw's one certainly is. In relation to Amorim, has blood on his hands for starting Luke Shaw, says GGMU. I mean, look, I'm really glad that you've said that there, because I do want to talk about this. I've seen a few people in the last couple of weeks talk about Ruben Amorim and say, with some United fans, including you, Mark, he is beyond criticism. And I don't think that's particularly fair of those of us who back Ruben Amorim, because I did this with Erik ten Hag, and I really, really, really don't want to see another manager sacked. And I think that Ruben Amorim's job, in 30 seconds, Ruben Amorim was thrown into a shithole. He's got a totally different system. He's got a shit set of players. He needs a proper pre-season and a proper transfer window. Is he getting a proper pre-season? I doubt it. Is he getting a proper transfer window? I doubt it. Are they setting him up to fail? Probably. So the cycle will continue. Does Amorim have blood on his hands? Yes. Should we be blaming Amorim? No. No, because there is a huge cycle that's going on. And I think if you scrutinise Amorim, you ignore the real problem at Man United. The same way Ten Hag got thrown under the bus, Jose got thrown under the bus, Oli got thrown under the bus. I'm sure Amorim will get thrown under the bus. There are already people at the end of the season shouting Amorim out. The media and ex-players are already on him. But whilst Amorim has made mistakes, the reason I don't get onto Amorim is because we've seen it with Ten Hag, we've seen it with Jose, we've seen it with Van Gaal. We get on the manager, we replace that manager, they have a little honeymoon, and then we get on the manager again. The big problem at Man United is not the manager, it's the people at the top. Amorim may make mistakes, we may lose games, we may sack the manager. But look at this summer transfer window. It's slow, it's laborious, it's ineffective, it's incompetent. Pre-season's in jeopardy again. We're not going to have signings in for the start of the season. We're not going to get rid of all the players that we want to get. We're slow, laborious and incompetent. And this has been going on for a decade. So I just don't waste my time talking about Amorim's concerns or my concerns about Amorim, because my major concerns are Manchester United. And when you look at the pie, yeah, there's probably about 5% where I look at Amorim and go, don't like that. But there's 95% where I go, well, that's the real problem. And I just think in football, we're very bad at focusing on more than one problem. And the problem with Man United is the ownership and how they run the football club. It's an absolute joke. So I don't think Amorim's beyond criticism, but I think a lot of where he's gone wrong goes wrong because of the people above him. And if we're going to focus on anything, we should always be focused on the root cause, in my opinion, and that is the people at the top. But in fairness, you should always play devil's advocate. I look at Amorim's mistakes. The Europa League final, I just can't move past. And we will come back to this at some point in the next 2 months. But at the moment, we're obviously very focused on incomings, outgoings, pre-season, etc. That's correct. But I will keep saying it to you. I do struggle to get past the Europa League final. I thought it was an absolute mess. I don't think it was excusable. There was no tactical shift across 90 minutes. It was obvious after 10 minutes that Spurs were going to park the bus. Spurs sacked the guy that won that final. It wasn't a masterclass. They sacked him. They'd lost 20-something games in the Premier League. He changed his tactics to the final to a system he doesn't even believe in. He was Mr. I'm Ange and I stick to my tactics no matter what. And then he parked the bus. So it was a tactical disaster from Amorim in that final. He didn't respond well to it at all. Luke Shaw was fucking shit in that final and was shit for a month before. I don't know why Luke Shaw started. Mason Mount wasn't much better and had missed most of the season. So those two selections were terrible. His substitutions were way too late. It was a terrible final. And we wouldn't be in this position now if we'd won that final. But we have to move on. But I'm just saying, devil's advocate wise, I've always defended Amorim, but that final, it's a good job it was the last game of the season, because I've got to be honest, in relation to Amorim, I needed the break. I never really bothered about the volume of interviews. And I never really bothered about the losses, because I could always park that away. It's not his fault. We need a pre-season. We need transfers. But I think the Europa League final was a good job. It was the last game of the season, because for me, I was very, very shocked about how many bad mistakes he made in that final. Which is why the pre-season and the transfers are so important, because we need to start the season with the real vision of what Amorim's all about. Also, another thing as well, devil's advocate, he should have sold Bruno. I'm never going to change my mind on that. He should have cashed in. Bruno's not his player. Bruno was bought by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and played for Ten Hag. Bruno is not your player. And it was like, no, he can't go. £100 million. £100 million. We should have done the deal. I hope I get proved wrong on that, by the way, but I would have done that deal. So he's made decisions that I wouldn't agree with, but 100% behind him and 100% want him to do well, because he's not the problem at Manchester United. And for all the things I've just said there, they're a drop in the ocean compared to that team doesn't suit his system. He needs a pre-season and he needs his own players. And I think in Cunha and Mbeumo, you've got two really good signings there. And I think we will be better. We can't be that bad again. So I don't have concerns about Amorim if they give him what he needs. But there has been mistakes. Of course there has. For me, it's just a drop in the ocean to what the real problems are at the club. If Anthony goes, what's his value, says Tom? I just think with Anthony, I'd just like to say, well done. When he went on loan to Betis in January, I was like, guaranteed he's going to go on loan again because no one's going to give us the money to cover what we need. We need about 30 million to break even. We'll break even, and that's why a loan deal works. So yeah, I think Anthony's value is probably 30 to 40 million, which should cover it off. Dan Golding says, am I wrong to think a top quality midfielder should have been signed before Brian Mbeumo? Says Dan. Well, you might not be wrong, Dan, and I think some people might agree with you. I would say, if we're doing things in order, a goalkeeper and a striker should have been done before Cunha and Mbeumo, but it doesn't always happen in order. Nikki says, fun fact, Bruno Fernandes has more appearances than Luke Shaw and has been at the club half the time. Why on earth did they give him another contract? Stupidity, Nikki. Not from you, from the club. Why isn't Eric Ten Hag coming in for the shite he bought? It's just simply read because it's shit. Kevin says, I think Garnacho should have shown some respect to Amorim because Amorim was the one who forced it to keep Garnacho in January. It's because Garnacho is selfish on the ball and not good enough. He is in this situation. New rules about clubs being in 500 million debt being sold, says Keel. Don't know what that's all about. Liam says, whoever gave Luke Shaw the 2-year contract extension should be booted out. Jack Cassidy says, apart from McTominay homegrown, the last player we actually sold for value was Lukaku. I'm sure sabotage is happening behind the scenes. Thank you, Jack. Amorim has blood on his hands for starting. Sure. I wanted to just bring this in, by the way. I don't know how much improvement this leads to at Manchester United, bringing in Cunha and Mbeumo, who scored quite a lot of goals in the Premier League last season. I mean, if somebody knows off the top of their head how many goals they scored combined in the Premier League last year, I would say it's 30, nothing less. So Cunha and Mbeumo scored 30 Premier League goals between them last year. Our top 5 goal scorers didn't even hit 30. It's actually 35, says Patrick Lynch. So 35 goals from Cunha and Mbeumo in the Premier League combined last year. Our top 5 scorers were Bruno on 8, Ahmad on 8, Garnacho on 6, Rasmus on 4, and Rashford on 4. So our top 5 goal scorers combined had 30 goals. Actually 30 goals, bang on. Cunha and Mbeumo got 35. It's pitiful. Absolutely pitiful. Right. 2 years ago, we wouldn't have sold Rashford and Garnacho for less than 200 million combined. It's sad. It's a reflection, Slazy, of the drop-off in the football club. Johnny Murta, welcome to Members Club. Thank you. Apologies, Mark. Doesn't Mbeumo's contract end in 2026? And if so, isn't it too expensive? They've got an option for another year, which they would obviously activate, Sherman. What do you think is United's biggest recent what if? Got to be Kane. Would he have... Nah, I don't agree with that, Sean. So you're basically saying if we'd got Harry Kane instead of Rasmus, which wasn't possible, we'd be in a different position. I think Harry Kane would be stood up front for Man United with nothing to do. I don't think one player changes our trajectory. I think the biggest what-if moment was getting Qatar instead of the Sir Jim. I think that will always be the biggest what-if. And we were sold a lie. We were sold a lie that they were willing to sell the football club, and they weren't. They were just looking for investment, and Sir Jim came along. How much should we sell Sancho for, says Fraz? I don't understand the Sancho deal. I don't understand why he would go for money when he could run his contract down. We gave Luke Shaw the new contract to play in the Euros final and lose also to score an own goal in the Europa League final and lose. It's funny, says Ahmad. Right, we're back at 2 o'clock. Maybe we'll get an Mbeumo Here We Go today. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in, as always. Fantastic show this morning. Probably the best morning show we've had in 2 or 3 weeks, actually. Just a really good selection of conversation and topics. Really enjoyed it today. Make sure you smash a like. Shocking Rasmus has got the same goals as Rashford for United, to simply read. I just think all in all, it's a shocking accumulation of goals when your top 5 Premier League goal scorers are on 30 combined. It's terrible across the whole team. And just very quickly before I go, in relation to assists, it's even worse. 1 assist from Rashford, none from Rasmus, 2 from Garnacho, 6 from Ahmad, and obviously Bruno got 10. I mean, Bruno's assist stats are always very good. Right, speak to you all later. Take care. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you in a bit. Take care.